Oh, there's sound here.
Okay. Good morning. Good, yeah.
There's sound.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
what's his name?
Okay. So today we're going to talk about the actual mitzvahs that are involved in building the Beis HaMikdash.
We have no sound here.
Okay, sorry about that. That was the Wi-Fi. Let's try again. Okay. So as we learned previously, the mitzvah of building a Beis HaMikdash is something which, since it's a house for Hashem, it's a home for Hashem, Hashem tells us, "Ve'asu li mikdash, make me a Beis HaMikdash." Hashem gives us the commandment to create a place where he can rest his presence. But by giving us this commandment, he also gives us rules and he tells us how it should happen. So let's go through today a few of the rules and maybe discuss also the general idea of what it means that we build the Beis HaMikdash. So let's look at the first thing. The Rambam writes, when they build the Heichal, which is the sanctuary of the Beis HaMikdash, or they build the courtyards of the Beis HaMikdash, it's a stone structure, and Bainin Bavanim Gedolos, they must use big stones. Continues, what happens if they don't find stones? If you don't find stones, you build it with bricks. But it has to be one of the two. It has to be either stones or bricks. Essentially, even more than that, the better way and the proper way to do it is to build a Beis HaMikdash with stones. It's only when we don't find it that we can use bricks. And there's an amazing idea over here, the difference between stones and bricks, and what is it so important to build a Beis HaMikdash with stones? The Beis HaMikdash means Hashem wants a place to rest in the lowest part in the physical world. The physical world is the inanimate. Stones is something which is completely the most, it shows in a person the concept of stones. In a person, there's also the idea of a living thing. The living thing is the intellect. The intellect is alive, it goes all over the place. There's a growing thing, which is the world which is connected to vegetation, And in a person, that's emotions. Emotions grow. They grow from smaller to bigger. In emotions, a person becomes more excited. He grows in that idea. Inanimate shows on something which is action, but even more than that, action which is devoid of any intellect and devoid of any feeling. Hashem tells us, I want you to make a home for me in the lowest place, in the concepts which have to do with your actions, and actions even when you have no feeling and no intellect, no understanding of it, but you're doing it simply because that's the right thing. That's where we make the ultimate home for Hashem. But the other idea is that we don't use bricks. We use stones. Stones are God created. They're created from above. There's something which is in creation. Bricks is something that a person makes that are man-made. In order to build a Beis HaMikdash for Hashem, the way we do it is by doing it according to the way Hashem tells us to do it. We do it by something which is God-made. We make a stone structure, which is this Beis HaMikdash, and then we have another very important point. When you take stones and you want to build a building with it, you have to split these stones. You don't split these stones anywhere inside the compound of a temple mount. Rather, you split them outside, you smooth them outside, and then you bring them in order to use them to build the Beis HaMikdash. Now, this is an interesting concept because everyone knows the idea that you're not allowed to raise iron upon stones of the Mizbeach. However, this applies only to the Mizbeach. This doesn't apply to the Beis HaMikdash. Nowhere in the Torah does it say that you're not allowed to use iron tools on the stones of the Beis HaMikdash. What we do find is that when the first Beis HaMikdash was built, they had the God-given command, which is obvious because of the fact that this is the way they did it, not to use iron tools inside the Beis HaMikdash. They used iron tools beforehand. There's different opinions. Some opinions say they didn't. It's two opinions of the Gemara. The Rambam follows the opinions that they did use the iron tools, but they didn't use it inside the Beis HaMikdash. So when building the Beis HaMikdash, we can't use iron tools in order to split the stones. Another halacha is ein bainin ba'etz bailet klal. The Torah says you are not allowed to plant a tree anywhere in the compound of the Beis HaMikdash. The sages explained it to mean not just a tree, but any type of wood. However, that's only wood which is built into the Beis HaMikdash in a set way, and that's only in the actual Beis HaMikdash, which means in the inner courtyard where the Mizbeach is. However, according to the Rambam, according to some opinions, at least according to the Rambam, there's a rabbinic prohibition to build wood anywhere inside the compound of the Temple Mount. Another thing is, when we build the Beis HaMikdash, so here we have, number one, we use stones. Number two, inside the Temple Mount, we don't use iron tools on these stones. Number three is we don't build any wood. So if you want to make a hallway in the Beis HaMikdash, it has to be a stone hallway. It can't be a wooden hallway. And number four is meratzpin kol azara bavanim yikares. We tiled the entire azara, the entire courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash with precious stones, with marble stones, marble tiles. Now the halacha is, if a kohen wants to do avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, he's serving Hashem in the Beis HaMikdash. He's not allowed to have anything separating between his feet and the floor, because the floor was sanctified also as being part of the Holy Azara. So just like when he wants to slaughter an animal, he can't just use any knife. He has to use a holy knife. And he can't have any separation between his hand and the knife. When he wants to receive the blood, he has to do it with a sanctified vessel, which is specifically set for that. So also when he does the avodah, he has to be standing on the floor. He can't be standing on something else, on a chair or on something else. However, standing on the floor could be standing on the actual earth floor, but since they put marble tiles, the marble tiles also have to be connected to the floor. If it's disconnected, it's not part of the sanctification. David HaMelech sanctified the floor, the ground of the Azara. If the tiles are connected, then it's part of the sanctification. If not, then they're not. So he has to stand on the marble tiles. Another thing is mitzvah min hamuvchar lechazik es habinin lagdil lefikifikoyach hatzibur. It's a better mitzvah. It's a preferred way to do it is to strengthen and to make the building higher according to the ability of the community. Which means if the people have enough means, then they should cover all the walls and all the gates of the Azara, or they even make the gates of the Azara in the first place out of gold. So they do it as beautiful, they beautify it in the best way possible. Now the Rebbe explains here a very interesting point. Whenever we serve Hashem, we have to serve Hashem with the best. But when we serve Hashem with the best, the Rambam explains the reason why we do this is in order to conquer our evil inclination that usually wants the nature of a person as I want the best for myself, I have to give the best to Hashem. But that's a side reason. With regards to the Beis HaMikdash, it's not a side thing. It's actually part of the mitzvah of the Beis HaMikdash. The pasuk says, we must exalt and make greater the house of Hashem, and therefore it has to be made in the best possible way. Another mitzvah is Ein Bainin Es HaMikdash B'Layla. It's forbidden we don't build the Beis HaMikdash at night, because it says in the pasuk by the Mishkan, the day that the Mishkan was set up, and just like the Mishkan, it can be set up by day and not by night. And finally, we have the mitzvah of HaKol Chayav, and everyone is obligated to build, to help. They have to help on their own, be involved in the building, and everyone has to give money to be involved in the building, men and women, just like the Mikdash, the first Beis HaMikdash, which was the Mishkan in the desert. So that's the first thing, that everyone has to be involved in it. Now, in order for everyone to be involved in it, we all have to know how to do it. If we don't know how to do it, we won't be able to be involved. So since we're awaiting the coming of Mashiach immediately, we have to learn all of these laws. So some of the things that we learned today, we need to use stones. We can't split these stones in the Harabayis itself. We need to make the building as beautiful as possible. We need to put marble. We need to tile it with marble, and you can't build by night. In fact, the building is done from dawn till dusk, but not at night. So everyone has to be involved in it. Now, there's an interesting concept over here. We know that women are exempt of mitzvahs that are bound by time. Seemingly, building the Beis HaMikdash is also bound by time because you can only build by day, you can't build by night. Nevertheless, the Rambam here puts equality. Men and women are equally obligated in the building of the Beis HaMikdash. And the Rebbe explains that the concept is the following. The building of the Beis HaMikdash, the mitzvah is not a mitzvah on each person. It's a communal mitzvah on the community that they have to make sure there's a Beis HaMikdash. Hashem wants that the way it's done is with the involvement of every single Jew. And therefore, it doesn't make a difference. Men or women are all equally obligated because it's something which has to be, the involvement is not a mitzvah on each person. It's a mitzvah on the community, but the way it has to be done, Hashem says, I want every Jew to be involved, both physically by helping and monetarily by giving money in order to build my home. The Rebbe also adds that children are also involved in the donations for the Beis HaMikdash. In the Mishkan, it says children also gave. So also over here, and especially in our generation, when we have learned to educate children in the mitzvah of tzedakah, so in giving money, children will also be involved. And nevertheless, when it comes to the actual involvement in the building of the Beis HaMikdash, we say that children who are learning Torah, we don't stop them from learning Torah in order to build the Beis HaMikdash, which is both shows on the greatness of Torah study, of children specifically. We don't interrupt their Torah study even in order to build the Beis HaMikdash. But it's another point also. We're talking about what has to be done in order to build the Beis Hamikdash. It's not a mitzvah on each person. It's who has to help. Children's helping, the way they help for the Beis Hamikdash to be built is through the fact that they study Torah. Perhaps the fact that the Rambam emphasizes for the building means that they still, when the Beis Hamikdash is being built, we teach the children specifically the Torah that is connected to the building of the Beis Hamikdash. But their way of building it is by learning Torah, and as we said earlier, by giving donations. The same thing over here. Even though it's a mitzvah to build the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem doesn't want that mitzvah to be done on Yom Tov and certainly not on Shabbos. That's the way it's done, the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Now there's another halacha in Rambam over here, which he speaks about the actual building. And he says that if someone breaks one stone from anywhere in the Mizbeach, in the altar of the Beis Hamikdash, or from the Heichal, the sanctuary, or from any place in the courtyard between the sanctuary and the Mizbeach, if he breaks it in a way of destruction, he's transgressed a transgression and he gets punished by whipping. Now the question is, what does it mean in a way of destruction? And so the Rambam is saying that although it's forbidden to break it, if the breaking is in order to build it, then it's permitted. When Hashem, we know that Hashem keeps all the mitzvahs. So how did Hashem break the entire Beis Hamikdash if he keeps all the mitzvahs and it's forbidden to break even one stone of the Beis Hamikdash? And that's the reason, is because he didn't break it in order to break it. He broke it in order to build a much bigger and better one. When he broke the first Beis Hamikdash, it was to build the second. When he broke and destroyed the second, it was to build the third, which is another reason why in this time, which is the time that we remember that Hashem destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. Why are we learning about it? Not just to know what we had, but because now is the best time for the building of it, because that was the purpose of destruction in order to build it. Now, if we'll just finish off with the point that since we learned that there's rules that apply to the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Building the Beis Hamikdash is a mitzvah. It's incumbent upon us. What about the third Beis Hamikdash? Who's going to build the third Beis Hamikdash? So there's an interesting thing. We know that the third Beis Hamikdash can't be built the Beis Hamikdash is not allowed to be built at night. Now the Gemara says regarding the third Beis Hamikdash, the Gemara speaks about even at night, perhaps the Beis Hamikdash will be built now. And both Rashi and Tosfos on the Gemara, they have the same question. How is that possible if we just learned you can't build the Beis Hamikdash at night? And so they say that's only the first and second Beis Hamikdash. The third Beis Hamikdash, they explain, is totally built already. And therefore, all that will happen is it will be revealed from heaven, it will come down from heaven. And therefore, it can come down even at night, because it's not something which is a problem. It's not being built at night. And even if it is built at night, if it's built by God, then it's different. It can be built at night. That's one option. Another option, the Rambam says, and he's basing it on Yerushalmi, that says that the Jewish people, and specifically Mashiach, who's going to bring the redemption, the way he'll bring the redemption is by building the third Beis Hamikdash. So which one is it? And so the general idea is the Rebbe explains that we put the two together. In other words, we're going to have both. Either we're going to build the physical Beis Hamikdash, and inside it, the spiritual Beis Hamikdash will come down from heaven, or some parts will come down from heaven, some parts will be built by us, or like one of the ways is that the doors Mashiach will put up, and when someone puts up the doors of a building, it's as if he put up the entire thing. But the point of it is that the third Beis Hamikdash is something which is dependent on what we're doing. Every action that we do now is part of building the third Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash has to be built by the Jewish people. The third Beis Hamikdash is going to be built by the involvement of the Jewish people, when we learn it, when we learn about it, when we do mitzvahs for it, when we give tzedakah for it, when we do all the things which are our involvement. But nevertheless, the way it comes down is an eternal Beis Hamikdash, which that's an edifice of Hashem, and therefore it will last eternally. It's not just a man-made thing which is limited like man, but rather something that will last eternally. Okay, so tomorrow, please God, will be about the measurements of the Mizbeach.
Thank you, Rabbi.